maybe it is working. We'll find out. So I guess we'll just wait for the introductions, just leave it run. And I can always edit it later or something if we need to. Should be easier than that. Hey. Yes, we are. We had a few technical problems, and I'll apologize for that, but now we are ready to start, so thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming. This is Gayle Ireland. She's going to talk to us a little bit about focus groups and behind the scenes and give us a chance to ask her questions. We were really excited about her coming because for our senior advertising class, we Skyped in with her and she gave us a lot of insights and it really helped develop our campaign and our research. So we're really excited to hear from you, and I'll turn it over.
Great, well thank you. Thank you all for braving the cold and the damp and all of that to be here. I do appreciate that. Let me tell you a little bit about myself before I get started. I currently have a practice in Charlotte. It's called Voci, and it is a partnership of myself and another longtime colleague of mine that handles, she actually works more in the strategy and branding side of things, and I handle all of the market research. I have been in market research for, gosh, about over 30 years, and I have worked both on what we say the supplier side and the client side. So I have worked for myself, supplying market research to companies and clients. I've also worked on the client side, meaning I worked in large corporations, the biggest of which was Duke Energy. I headed up their market research department for 10 years before I successfully escaped, and 10 long years. So I have seen the world from both sides, contracting for research as well as providing research. But what I would like to talk about tonight is really more market research as it's related to advertising. And I want to give you some hands-on real-world examples of how the research that I do, that Voci does, actually feeds into the development of creative, the development of packaging, the development of merchandising, the development of marketing plans and advertising campaigns. So these are things that, if you are working in an agency, these are going to be projects that you would work on. And I want to show you how research ended up keeping some people out of the ditches, how it actually ended up making a huge difference in the bottom line for some of these clients. So without it, they would have been flying blind, just kind of relying on, well, this is what we think is the best thing to do, or we have a great idea for a package. This is the coolest package ever. And it could have been a nightmare. So I want to kind of go through and like I said, give you a few examples. I know that we'll have time for Q&A at the end, but if there is something that you really need to know about any of these, please feel free to stop me and ask. Let's see. All right, the first one is a merchandising example. And this is the client on this one was Cole & Mason. Now, Voci was called in by an advertising agency partner. We work for a lot of ad agencies in Charlotte and in other parts of the region, actually. And we were called in to work on a study for their client, Cole & Mason. Cole & Mason is owned by a firm in the UK. They make a lot of housewares and home products, one of which are premium salt and pepper grinders. So they're very high end. They do cost quite a bit of money, and they actually are very good. Our assignment was actually to explore the shopping process. They felt like they were not getting the activity that they needed in the stores that they were selling their products in. And they felt like they didn't really understand how the consumer shopped for their product, and they didn't really understand, well, what do we need to be doing? What do we need to be doing about packaging? What do we need to be doing about signage? How can we go in and influence Bed Bath & Beyond or Sur La Table or Williams-Sonoma to better market our products? So we were called in to study this for them and to provide them insights. We had 3 phases in our work for them. The first thing that we did was conduct a focus group, a live focus group with women. The predominant shoppers for salt and pepper grinders, as you would think, is more women than men. So this was a group of women. We had them come in, talk to us about salt and pepper grinders, how they shopped for them, what they thought about them, what was important, a lot of different things. Then from there, we got a lot of insights. We selected, I think, 6 women out of the 10 that were in our focus group to do shop-alongs. And shop-alongs are quite fun. It's an interview done during shopping. So it's shopping, it's talking, it's, a $25 incentive. Everybody wins. So what we do in this case is it's just like conducting an in-depth interview. We have an interview guide. We meet our participant at the store or somewhere close by, and we go shopping. And as they are shopping, we're asking questions. And it is kind of interesting, a little trade secret here. A lot of stores do not like you to do interviews in their stores. It takes, you either have to get permission or you're going to be denied, but they just typically don't like it. Well, our shop-alongs are done a little under the radar. And so we have, the advent of technology is a wonderful thing. Usually I'll just take a digital recorder, little tiny digital recorder, and I've got, I don't know, a box or a package or even a notebook or something, and I'm just standing there chatting with the shopper, and to most of the store personnel, it just looks like 2 friends talking about how are you going to make a decision for this and what do you like. So we get a lot of information with, we can beg forgiveness instead of ask permission. But it really is, to me, it's great fun because there's, it's not only getting information and insights, but there's a little bit of espionage involved. So it's cool. But we did shop-alongs with these women, and I wanted to see, what do you do? You're here to buy a salt and pepper grinder. What do you do? And so from those insights, and I'll tell you some of the learnings in a second, for those first 2 steps, we were able to develop some theories. Here's what we think's going on. Here's what we think is important to shoppers. Here are some things we need to explore. Because, remember from research classes, fundamental purpose of research is to prove theories. So you can't just go out and not really know where you're going with your research. You need to have some ideas formed. Why are you doing it? What are you looking to prove or disprove? So we had our theories. We'd been shopping. We did an online survey. Huge online survey all across the nation about shopping for salt and pepper grinders. What do you like? What's important? What bugs you about the shopping process? Big study. So at the end, as I said, uncovered a lot of insights. What we found out in the world of shopping for salt and pepper grinders is the biggest thing they want to be able to do is pick it up and test it. And this is such an important characteristic that they are going to go to the shelf. If the salt or pepper grinder is not, or if it's not out of a box, if it's in a box, they're going to open the box and take it out of the box because they need to pick it up. And the more expensive it is, the more they need to do it. Because if you've ever worked with a salt and pepper grinder and, they're kind of like, and they don't really work very well and the salt or the pepper comes out in big chunks, this is a bad thing. And if you're paying a lot of money for one, you want to make sure it works before you take it home. So that was huge. Another thing that they wanted to find out was a little bit about the product. And most of these products really don't have a lot of information on them other than maybe the name of it and the price tag. And they wanted to find out a little bit about how do you load it. They had some basic operating instructions they wanted to find out easily. The third thing that we found out that was huge was back to the testing. It's interesting because a lot of stores don't really have a place to test a pepper grinder. The pepper and grinders and salt grinders, if you ever notice, and you will now because now that we've talked about it, they've got salt and pepper in them. So these women are taking these salt and pepper grinders off the shelf, They're looking around, and then they're grinding on the floor. So all of a sudden, you've got this big mess being formed on the floor. And these women, and this happened, the woman is taking her foot and like scraping the pepper under the cabinet because she was embarrassed. And some women would even say, I don't feel comfortable testing this thing, so I'll just look at them and then I'll go somewhere else and see if I can find a pepper grinder somewhere else. So the stores were losing sales. So take all of those insights. Remember, our assignment was, how does this company put together a better presence in the store to make their salt and pepper grinders sell? So as you can see, the picture on the left, this is, and it is a bit fuzzy because I was taking it surreptitiously on my cell phone. This one, if you notice the bottom, there's the white stuff in the bottom. There was a huge tray with a whole selection of salt and pepper grinders in this little rack in the middle. And so you were allowed to grind them, but they were all jumbled up there. There were wooden ones, there were metal ones, there were expensive ones, there were cheap ones. So, and really, as you can see, there's really not a whole lot to tell you what you're grinding. So that was the before. We took our insights, and the picture on the left is a display tray. And you can see there's some trays in there for sitting the salt and pepper grinders. There is at the top, you've got the brand name and the finer way to grind and an invitation. Take it for a twist drive. So we're giving the shopper explicit permission to pick these things up and play with them. The thing on the front right corner there is a little grate with holes in it. Grind it right here. Don't have to grind it on the floor. We've given you a spot. Bottom line, because of our insights and because of the way the ad agency took our insights and put them into this merchandising, these pepper grinders are flying off the shelves. In fact, when we went to the store to take this picture for this presentation, these are not the pepper grinders that go in that display. They are selling so fast the store can't keep them stocked. So the display was actually empty because they had sold out. So my partner actually just put some pepper grinders in there and took the picture. So without that, they would have continued along the same path. You would have had people walking out of your retailers because they're uncomfortable with your shopping process. People still would have been frustrated because there's not enough information. They were not meeting their customer shopping needs. So a little bit of research on the front end comes up with a great merchandising display on the back end. And like I said, it's hitting their bottom line in a very good, very big way. So they were happy. Next one, NASCAR. Any NASCAR fans? Well, nobody will admit to it. Okay, all right. Well, and we know we have been here together at a meeting. Bochi was actually hired along with another agency partner by the NASCAR Hall of Fame, which is located in Charlotte if you are not from around here. And in this particular situation, NASCAR Hall of Fame has and currently is still struggling a little bit. They're not getting the visitors that they want. They're not getting the repeat visitors that they want. And they were certainly concerned that they didn't really have the image in the community that they wanted. So they contracted with an ad agency to develop a new campaign. The campaign was designed to do three things. First of all, instill a sense of excitement among NASCAR fans that this was a place they really needed to come. If you're in Charlotte, you're going to the Speedway for a race. The Speedway is not located near the NASCAR Hall of Fame. You actually do have to make a trip into town to go see it, but they want to instill so much excitement that it's worth getting into town and going to this place. They also want to pique curiosity among the casual fans of NASCAR and event planners, so that the event planners will say, this is a cool venue to hold a dinner, like a business meeting or a business dinner. The casual NASCAR fans are going, I'm not a huge fan and I don't follow any driver. And, I have no idea who's leading, in points this year. But this seems like an interesting place to go. So I want to do something different on a Saturday, I'll go. The third point of the campaign was to develop a campaign that did not polarize the community that had no interest in NASCAR. So they didn't want to turn off anybody by being offensive in any way or irritating in any way, which would kind of further damage NASCAR Hall of Fame's image. So it was incite, or provide excitement, pique curiosity, and be non-polarizing. So the agency had taken their insights. They sat around and did some navel gazing and came up with what they thought were 4 great ideas. We were called in to conduct focus groups. Now, with the focus groups, we did them with fans, NASCAR fans. We did them with people that were self-reported as non-fans. I hate NASCAR necessarily, but I don't care about it at all. And then we did a group of event planners within the community. So what we did, we presented the 4 campaigns to them and began to get their reactions. Okay, first and foremost, none of the 4 campaigns worked. So they hated them all, basically. So if we had not been called in to do some research, the agency people and the NASCAR Hall of Fame people would have sat down together, picked their personal favorite, thrown it out there, and it would have just flopped. So with our research, one of the things that we found was that fortunately there were elements of each one that worked. So we can kind of beg, borrow, and steal and kind of craft a 5th campaign based on insights like people, fans, non-fans alike, felt that NASCAR Hall of Fame, when they got there, their perception was it was going to be a boring museum. I'm going to walk around, I'm going to see a bunch of cars, some helmets, and probably some old raggedy, dirty driving suit thing in a black glass cabinet. This is very boring to me, especially if I'm not a huge NASCAR fan anyway. So they didn't think it was exciting. They didn't think it was interactive. So they really had no interest in making the effort to go, even if they were a fan. Non-fans thought, if I'm not a NASCAR fan, this place is not for me. And that's okay. I mean, it's like Smithsonian has the Air and Space Museum, which is a phenomenal place, but if you could care less about air or space, you may not want to go there, and that's perfectly okay. So what we found out was, there's really nothing you can tell me about NASCAR Hall of Fame to make me, a non-fan, want to go, and I'm fine with that. So we found out that, first of all, it's okay. You don't have to appeal to the non-fans. Secondly, you darn well better make it a place for fans to really want to go. So we have to communicate that this is a place for fans. It is a mecca for fans. It is also exciting, and it is an interactive experience. So what came out of that was this logo. This is our sport. This is our house. So they're owning up to, if you're a NASCAR fan, this is your place. We have created it for you. Now, all I've shown here, obviously, is the tagline. But what it was supported with was TV ads and radio spots and probably some print, too, as well. TV ads were high action, high motion, lots of motor sounds and revving noises and stuff. But it was a high action, high excitement type of TV spot. It showed all of the interactive stuff that could be done. So at the end of the day, I do think they got a lift from this in terms of attendance. I don't know what those numbers are, but I do know that perceptions about the NASCAR Hall of Fame in terms of being the place for fans, the place that the community of NASCAR fans would like to go, and it being thought of as an exciting place, that has definitely changed. There's been impact there. So fortunately, if they had gone out without the benefit of research, actually some of the campaigns, 2 of the campaigns that they had thought about were actually offensive to people. So they really could have made a terrible mistake without the benefit of talking to a few people, getting some research, and getting those insights. Next, we're going back inside the home. This is actually work for Levolor. And this one I think is really interesting. It's a packaging study. And you can see up here the before and after packages from Levolor. And we had done, this was several years ago, we had done a lot of projects with Levolor. And we had gone into this particular study with a lot of knowledge about how strong the brand name of Levolor is. I mean, basically, especially, this was several years ago, but at that time, if you wanted a quality window blind, or shades, those types of things, Levolor was kind of the Cadillac for the window. That was the brand that you wanted. High performance, high quality brand. On this particular one, Levolor was looking to launch a new product. And they have a blind that is actually quite successful, and it's called, it is a blind that can be cut to size in the store. Now, in the world of window blinds, the way it used to work is they would have in the store blinds of fixed widths. And if your window happened to be of that width, you could buy the blind and take it home and install it. Well, truth is, very few windows were ever really the size that the blinds were as they came in the package. Invariably, people would have to get custom size blinds made. So you would go into the store, you would order the blinds, you would come back some weeks later and lots of dollars later and pick up your custom sized blinds that were created, manufactured, and to fit the dimensions of your window. This particular product really changed that and made custom-sized blinds something you could get while you're in Lowe's. There is a machine that cuts the blind to the size that you need it. All you have to do is bring in your window measurements. You get your blinds cut while you're shopping for your fertilizer and your bug spray. You get them all, put them in the cart, and go home and put them up. In this particular one, furthermore, these blinds could be cut in the box. The sales associate didn't even have to take them out of the box. Levolor had a machine. You put the whole box on there, you plug in the dimensions, and it's cut. They wanted a package that would explain this concept and that would obviously attract attention. It would be clear that this is a custom, you can custom size it in the store without taking it out of the box. So it needed to communicate these things. So what we did was a series of focus groups on this particular one. And we had several different packages that we had tested. And we were not only testing package design, but we were also testing the name of the product. They had several different options. Since they were coming out with a new package, they could come up with a new name for it. Cut to fit. Let's see, what was Sizables? That was another name that we tested. And so what we were ultimately ended up with was customers kept calling these things custom size blinds. Okay, you mean I can get custom size blinds in the store? So we realized custom size, when it comes to blinds, that's a term shoppers understand. Let's capitalize on that. So hence the name Custom Size Now. The other thing that we wanted to do in package design was to capitalize on the Levolor name. Now, some of the things that we learned as a result of our focus groups was, first of all, the window blind aisle in the store, in the aisle at Lowe's, let's say, very confusing place. It's hard to shop. It's hard to understand. You have to look for somebody to help you navigate what's there and what you want. At the time, it was also a very boring aisle. You look at the package on the left, and not only was Levolor's package in these lovely, restful, boring colors, so was everybody else's. The Levolor name had huge equity. Well, if you look at the package on the left, they're really not leveraging that. That name does not jump out at you. So they're not leveraging the equity that they own. People need to know certain things about window blinds. It wasn't easy to find on this package on the left. They need to know what size they are. They need to see the product. That's very, very important. Okay, it tells me on the outside of the box that it's white. I don't trust the box. I want to see the product. So I'm either going to open the box and destroy the box just to make sure it's the right color, or I really want a window. So all of this is feeding into package design. Got to have a window, got to have size information, up front and center. I want a picture of what these blinds look like. So I need, what we call a glamour shot. I need a shot of a room that shows me what this product looks like so that I can make sure that's the look I want on my window. So they had some very specific things that they wanted to know. They also wanted to, or one of the things that they also responded to well about these cut-in-the-box blinds is, give me a dotted line. A dotted line is the universal signal for cut here. So if you put some dotted lines and some scissor type things on it, I get it. I can cut these blinds. They can be cut for me. So all of these things fed into the package design, which you see on the right. And it was really at the time pretty revolutionary about this is the fact that when you're in Lowe's, when you sell into a store like Lowe's, Lowe's gets to dictate what your packaging can look like, how much shelf space you're going to get, all of those kinds of things. And of course, Lowe's has their own house brands, and they would love for their house brands to be the most popular brands on the block. So being able to get significant shelf space and significant visual real estate is a pretty big accomplishment when you get into Lowe's. The way this package is designed with the bold blue box, the big letters with Levolor, if you look at the photograph, you get to the aisle and there is this big old Levolor billboard that extends from one end of their product section to the other. So in terms of not only getting a package that works, we also help them get a billboard. We actually got them more merchandising in the store than they had before. If they had not gone out and done some research and gotten these customer inputs that they needed, they never would have ended up with a package like this. They never would have ended up with an aisle that looks like this. And they would have likely gone with actually, I think they wanted to turn the box beige. Even more exciting. So, we really kept them out of the weeds on that and really helped them dominate their product category. These blinds are very, very popular. I mean, you can't walk into a Lowe's today. I think almost every store now has one of those cutting machines. And, I mean, they've expanded the merchandising on this from there. But again, research really changed the direction of their whole packaging and their whole merchandising approach for Lowe's. Staying with windows, we're going to move to Velux. Velux is a Swiss company that makes skylights. And we have done a number of projects for Velux. Some include shopping behavior. This particular project included ad testing. And quite frankly, I think that advertising testing or copy testing is probably one of the most popular research techniques or types of research that is done with agencies. You create some ads and you need some feedback so you know which one to go with. Kind of like the NASCAR example. Had 4 campaigns, need to figure out which one to go with. On this one, they wanted to go out with a print campaign. So this was going to go, these campaigns or these ads were designed to go in like Home and Garden magazine, HGTV magazine, remodeling and renovation magazines, those types of things. They are designed to, they actually wanted to accomplish a laundry list of things with these ads. They wanted the ads to have stopping power, first of all, meaning you're leafing through a magazine, and that ad captures your eye enough that you actually stop and look at it instead of flipping on to the next page. So it needs to be able to stop you visually. It needs to have clarity. It needs to be very clear of what this ad is promoting. It needs to have appeal. You respond positively to this. It doesn't turn you off. It needs to add, they wanted it to add inspiration, meaning that it generates a new idea for a consumer, or it causes a consumer to go, well, darn, I want me one of them. That this is so cool. I can see this in my house. And if you ever watch HGTV or you read those types of magazines, look at the ads. They are all designed to make you want to do it. And furthermore, as we were talking at dinner, make it look so easy to do. I mean, it's like, why, yes, I can remodel my bathroom this weekend. It looks simple. So but they want to inspire you. The other thing, call to action. In this particular case, these ads were designed to call the consumer to go to a website for more information. So is the ad doing that? Is it driving that? And sponsorship was the last thing. Do you know what the brand is? Do you know who sponsored this ad? So these ads needed to accomplish a lot of things. They were organized into some different series. Some were like fantasy and whimsy. Others were a little bit more lifestyle types of things, a little bit more realistic. We took it out to focus groups. These were people who these were actually another group of women that had either remodeled recently or were planning a remodeling project. They didn't necessarily have to be considering a skylight, but they were thinking about doing something different to their house. So what we found out was that we were able to determine for them which ads were polarizing. I love it or I hate it. Anybody guess which of these ads would be the most polarizing?
Middle.
The middle? No.
Top left.
Top left. Exactly. It was very striking, this Broadway stage encore. Very striking, but it had this element of creepy to it. And that really kind of turned a lot of people off. I mean, this red and black was just a little too violent looking for a lot of people. We determined for them that there were a couple of ads that were not very believable. Any guesses? Which one? Top right?
The middle.
Not so much the middle. The top right is exactly one. And the bottom right is the other one, the girl sitting with all the chateau thing. There were some that did not pertain to the product. And that one, again, was the one on the lower right. People are going, well, what's this selling? Is it a book? Is it, I don't know. So they really couldn't tell. There were some that were appealing, but the product wasn't terribly obvious and needed a few tweaks. That one is the one on the lower left. That was just an engaging and appealing ad. People liked it, but they couldn't decide, well, was it about, the man's ties blowing? Are you selling clothing? Are you selling something in the kitchen? Is it wall tile, the green wall, tile back there? But, they kind of neglected to look up and see the skylight. So that one kind of missed the mark. But the one in the middle actually was the one that was the most eye-catching for people. They felt there was enough whimsy in it to be fun. It was clear. They could see the skylights. They saw what the skylights did that kind of illuminated the room. It was, certainly, very, unobjectionable. There was no creepiness about it. And it was there, the people could very easily identify what the product was and who the sponsor was, who the brand was. So they ended up, I think, going with, there was a couple more in that series, and that was the one that they actually ended up going with. So again, they came in, their theory was that Broadway thing up in the upper left, that is so cool. We think they're going to really like that one. And, it was scaring people. And they didn't know, you don't want to be doing that. So we, again, a little bit of insight keeps them out of the weeds and helps them go out with the strongest campaign. Now, my last example is food. And House Autry is a regional brand. They are based out of Four Oaks, which is just east of Raleigh, and they do a lot of traditional Southern cooking types of meals, grits and cornbread and things like that. Well, they came out with a new product, and they wanted us to come in and work with them on not only packaging testing, but taste testing as well. And we had done that. We've done that on several different things over the years. This one just happened to be a very striking example that I wanted to share. They came out with this new product called dinner grits, and think like shrimp and grits, that type of thing. And they had 4 flavors. They had the Parmesan and herb, the stroganoff, the broccoli and cheddar, and one called Creole. And Creole was shrimp and grits, but they couldn't use, they didn't want to use shrimp in the title because the meat did not come with it. So Creole was the flavor. So we went in and did a series of focus groups for them, and we not only talked about the challenges of home cooks and why a product like this would appeal, because that type of insight can feed into messaging. If you're trying to write copy for a radio ad, because they don't do a lot of print, but they do radio spots. If you're trying to write copy for a radio ad, well, you kind of need to know the benefits that you need to highlight in your copy. So we found out a lot about that. We also were able to give them very specific feedback on the packaging and on the flavors. Some of the things that we found out is with this target market, House Autry is, like I said, it is a regional brand, and it has a very loyal core customer segment. These people, the people who know it, are the kinds that say, I used it because Mama used it, because Grandmama used it. It's always been in my family. I know it's quality, high degree of trust, high degree of equity with these target markets. So having that name at the top, critical, because people are looking for that. They're looking for this white lettering on a red background. Had to have it. Secondly, having the product name in big bold letters, very, very helpful, because people are scanning aisles. You know how busy a grocery store aisle is. I want to know what the product is, especially if it's something new. Tell me in big letters what it is, because I've got to stop that shopper while they're cruising down the aisle, and you're getting maybe a split second of eye time. So that was very important. The other thing that we found was that the color code was very important. And I didn't really think about this until our focus groups were able to talk to us about this. But as people are shopping, consumers, really react more to color than to words. And so once you have a brand established, I'm a House Autry diehard, let's say. Well, I'm just going to go look for the green box. Or, as a lot of our shoppers told us that were moms, I can send my child for certain products because the packaging is so standard. I can tell my child, now go over there and get me the purple box. The child doesn't even have to read, but all of a sudden you've got children are entertained in the grocery store. Moms, and even moms, are saying, I am so frazzled when I'm going through the grocery store. I'm in a hurry. I've got, I'm tired or whatever, and I'm just reaching for the colors that I've always reached for. So one of the things that House Autry has threatened many times over the years, we want to change up our colors. We think that would be a good thing. And we keep saying, wait a minute. First of all, you own red. And in the food category, especially in their product categories, not a lot of people own red. If you own a color, it's a good thing to not try to deviate too far from that. And don't start mixing your colors around a lot on your food products. If they're reaching for the green box, let them keep reaching for the green box. Don't make it yellow all of a sudden. So color coding was critical. In terms of some of the other findings, the green actually was the most eye-catching. The broccoli and cheddar was the most eye-catching of all of the boxes. It was also the one that tested the best in our taste test, which people were shocked that, most people have a polarized reaction to broccoli, and people were really surprised that it tasted as good as it did. Parmesan and herb was another one that tested very well in the taste test. People also liked the packaging. They felt like it made sense with the flavor profile. Just as broccoli and cheddar, that color makes sense with the flavor profile. Creole was the fourth flavor, and it was also a strong tester. But what we found, stroganoff was the problem child. Well, first of all, the name has certain connotations. If you see stroganoff, do you think grits? No. You think noodles, first of all. So we got a problem there. Secondly, I'm not sure I'm wanting stroganoff with my grits. I mean, that's just, that was just like a taste leap that most people were not willing to take. Also, the taste of it was just not a favorite with people. I mean, it is, a mushroom-based type of thing. You can add meat to it, or, beef strips or whatever you want to, but it just was not going over. Third, and probably the most entertaining for me personally, because I got to, talk about all the verbatim quotes, was the color. And brown, not a good color to put on food packaging. So, it's like when you have your core target market telling you your packaging kind of reminds them of dog do, they got to stay away from that. And they did. That's exactly what they said. So what we ended up recommending to House Autry was kill the stroganoff. Don't even release this to the world. Stay away from the brown packaging, but don't even go there with the flavor profile. Fortunately, they did listen. They did stay with the broccoli cheddar and the Parmesan herb and the Creole. They have also, because they have gone over quite well, they've now introduced 2 additional flavors. And so, I think that, our input, I feel very good about the fact that they chose to go out, ask their consumers about something before they launched it. It allowed them to come out with the best packaging possible and avoid embarrassing themselves or stubbing their toe with a flavor profile that absolutely would have bombed in the marketplace. So, research, a lot of times agencies and clients, when they're thinking about advertising kinds of things, they worry that research is just going to take away from their budgets. Well, if I spend money on research, then I'm not going to have enough money. I can't buy all the TV time that I want to, or I can't buy placement in all the magazines that I want to. Thing about it is that you spend a little bit of money up front in research, and it keeps you out of the weeds. It keeps you from making big financial mistakes. So it's not always an easy sell necessarily, but when agencies engage in research, I have yet to ever have a client that regretted it. So it can be your very best friend if you are an agency. So highly recommended. Kind of self-serving, but there you go. So those are the examples that I wanted to present to you, give you a sense of how research really does support advertising in a pretty big way sometimes. So with that, do you have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I've been looking into market research a lot, and I'm curious, I've heard mixed things with it, but would you recommend that people go get their graduate degree before trying to enter the workplace with market research?
Actually, I think I'd say yes and no. Yes, in the sense that research can be a hard field like anything else sometimes to break into. It becomes a chicken and an egg argument of, well, where's your experience? Well, I'm trying to get some with you. Well, we'll hire you when you have experience. So, having a graduate degree sometimes gives you that little extra cred to get in the door. That said, there are in research, I think, unlike some professions, I think in research, there are entry-level positions. I mean, you can always go in as an analyst or as a project manager. There are several positions that can be more of an entry level, and I guarantee you your graduate level experience will be much, much better if you've got some work experience going into a grad program. So, it kind of depends on, Are you trying to change tracks a little bit? Because if you are, you may need that graduate degree to get you an interview with the kinds of companies that you'd like to work with. If you've got enough in your undergrad background to say, I can get in on an entry-level position for a year or two, I would take advantage of that and then go back to grad school. What else? Yes, ma'am.
How do you choose the focus groups? Is it sort of like a all-out just survey sent out to people, or how does that work?
Okay, great question. Well, first of all, of course, every time we go out and do any type of research, one of the early steps is to define your sample profile or your sample frame, the people that you want to talk to or include. That could be based on demographics, it could be based on product usage, but you and your client sit down and say, who do we need to get information from? Then with really almost all the focus groups that I do, especially all of the ones that I've shown you tonight, I work with focus group facilities. I am a moderator, but I do not have a building that has a conference room in it for focus groups. But those places, there are companies, that's all they do. They are focus group facilities. They are designed to provide, the conference rooms where you conduct your focus groups. They have always in these conference rooms is a two-way mirror. So your client can sit behind the mirror and watch the focus group as it goes on in front of them. They also, of course, they do all the taping and all of that, but they also recruit for your respondents. So how that works is you provide them the description of the respondents or participants that you would like to have. They build databases of consumers and sometimes of business people that have said, if you ever want me to do a focus group, and a lot of these facilities place ads in newspapers, do research for money kinds of things, and what they're doing is they're seeking to build a database, and they will call their database people, the respondents in their database, send them through a screening interview. And if you meet the criteria, then you will be allowed to or invited to participate in the focus group. Mm-hmm. What else? Yes.
How large are they usually?
It depends. The ideal size is usually 10 people. And the magic number being 10 is there is enough there that creates energy. You want energy in the room because you want to encourage people to talk and to enjoy the discussion. Well, if there's 2 of you in the room, it gets awkward. But you want enough for that energy to be there. If you get more than 10, you don't get enough talk time. And so 10 allows everybody to talk every few minutes. And if you go over that, you'll have people sitting there for 5 or 10 minutes and never say anything. And there have been instances, I think the largest focus group that I have ever done was with 20-some people. And that was for a company. I was actually doing focus groups with their employees. And I mean, the war stories I could tell you from, my research over the years, but that one was with third shift. It was at midnight. At a distribution center in the middle of nowhere in Virginia. And so, but it was like, well, we're going to give everybody this hour break and we're herding them all into this room and go for it. So it was just awkward, but it got done. So what else? Yes.
Who's your favorite client to work with?
Favorite client to work with? That is a very good question. I think House Autry was a great client to work with, I have to admit. There are a couple of agencies in Charlotte that I really, really enjoy working with. My favorite kind of client to work with is usually whether it's an agency or a corporation directly that's got somebody in-house that understands a little bit about research, that asks really good questions, asks really hard questions, and when you go back to them saying, well, we can do this, but we can't do that, they kind of understand why. And like I said, there are a couple of agencies in Charlotte that are very, very good about that. There are some other clients that I've had that are, they're problem children, and we try to kind of lay low. We're not going to make eye contact with them. We're not sending them Christmas cards every year, so we prefer they not come back. So. Yes.
Do you find yourself prospecting more, or are companies coming to you?
It's a little bit of both. We do have clients that come back to us over and over, and especially with our agency partners. We are a research resource to a number of different agencies, and so they're picking up the phone calling us. A lot of companies that we work with directly, it's a result of us prospecting for them, and one of the reasons that is pretty important for us is that there are certain kinds of companies that we prefer to work with. For example, for Voci, it's going to be something generally in the Fortune 500 to Fortune 1000 group of companies. We are a smaller boutique type of research consultancy. I really don't want to take on Coca-Cola, where they're doing, I'm capable of doing it. It's just, I would really need to staff up with resources to handle projects that are going on in 30 countries all at the same time. So we like, certain sizes. Right now, we're developing a specialty in a lot of these, like the examples I showed you, home products, things that are used in the home, whether it's kitchenware or it's housewares. Charbroil is a huge client. The Charbroil grills, huge client for us and has been for years. And they're one of our favorite clients, actually. They're up there on the favorites list. We're doing more and more work in that arena. So when we walk into a client, we got some chops that we can say, we know your business. We are all over Lowe's. If you sell through Lowe's or Home Depot, we got you covered. And so, therefore, prospecting for us helps us target clients that we want to work with as opposed to just waiting for the phone to ring. Yes?
What is Voci?
Thank you for asking. It is actually a made-up word. It's an acronym, actually, for three things. VOCC stands for Voice of the Customer and Constituencies, meaning we bring to you the voice of your customers, or constituencies, meaning anybody else that is important to you. And the two I's are for my last name, Ireland, and my partner's last name, which is Irwin. So, it's great. It's fun. People have a hard time pronouncing it, but they do tend to remember it once they've heard it. And you have those two little I's out there on the end. And for Christmas cards, we can make those little I's do all kinds of fun things. They look like little people. And one of them had a Santa hat on one year. And, so that's always helpful too. But we have to thank our graphics designer for that one. So he came up with that. What else? Yes.
Do your client or the focus groups ever talk about the price? For example, the getting into the Hall of Fame. I'm a casual.
Yes.
But I'm just not going to pay the price.
Exactly.
So I'm wondering if you ever suggest to your clients, what I'm hearing is that it really is what you cost.
Right.
Do you factor that into your focus group cost?
Absolutely, we do. And it's very interesting because depending on the topic of the focus group, depends on whether you include price as a real factor or whether you discount price. There are certain things where that people are always going to say, I want it cheaper. Because we all want it cheaper, faster, better. And so in certain categories, price, I may even direct a lot of times, whether it's focus groups or even online research, survey research, I will actually word things in a way. Excluding price, tell me, what's the most important factor or what would make you buy this or go to this place. But in the case of, for example, NASCAR Hall of Fame, price was a true barrier. And, we needed to understand in that case, given the price for admission, what do you need that experience to be to make it worthwhile for you? And several years ago, we worked with Grandfather Mountain, did a lot of work with them, and they had some of the same concerns, is that they were looking at their pricing structure and they had recently changed it, and they were very concerned that pricing may be driving some of the decline in attendance, and so we had to explore that for them very, very specifically. But yeah, it does depend on the product category and kind of the reasons why price. If people say, well, it's just because I want it cheaper, well, that's not doing us, me or the client, any good. But when it is a bona fide driver, we'll get behind what that means to them. Yes?
How do your clients evaluate your success? Like, how do they evaluate what you do for them?
Usually a couple of ways. One is if, in some cases, clients will say, I presented your research findings and it confirmed what we believed, or it allowed us to make a decision that we needed to make. We were able to make that decision with confidence. So sometimes that's our measure of success with a client. In other times where we have actually, our input has driven creative or driven packaging, our measure of success becomes the lift that they have gotten. For example, many years ago, we worked with Rubbermaid, and they had designed a new plastic storage container. And we went out and did the research for the messaging and the benefits that needed to resonate and through their packaging, through all of their advertising. And we kind of steered them out of a direction that would not have been productive for them, steered them into another direction that was very productive and very successful. And we also, in that case, said, based on our research about purchase intent, we think if you go in this direction with these types of benefits, you're going to get a 300% lift based on purchase intent. And I mean, that was scaled way back to be conservative. They got a 900% lift. So, in that case, we actually had sales data that fed back so they could look at us and go, thank you. Your measure of success was a 900% lift. But a lot of times it is the confidence that our client goes in terms of making a decision or changing direction.
Is that discussion about how you be evaluated part of what you do in terms of first meeting the client, drawing up contracts? So is that part of the initial communication?
It is not in terms of drawing up a contract. We do not guarantee results. For example, that we're guaranteeing you, $1 million in sales, and we're going to take 1% of it as our fee. We don't do that type of contract. It's always a set fee for the work that we do. However, in order to design a good research project, we have to know from our client, what are you trying to do? At the end of the day, what decisions are you trying to make? What are you going to do with this data when you get it? Because if we don't know that, then we're likely to give them data that, it looks orange, but they needed a yellow answer. Our research is not likely to be successful for them. So it's less about, our measures of success for us and more about giving them the research they really need is to ask those kinds of questions. What does success look like for you at the end of the day? And then we design projects to help them get the input they need to get there. Mm-hmm. Yes?
I was just wondering, how you got started with advertising. If you could just talk about that.
Absolutely. It's interesting to compare now as opposed to the dark ages when I started. And but now you've got, you actually can get degrees in market research, and you can get undergrad and graduate degrees and go into it with a great deal of education. When I started, there were actually very few degree programs. I have an interesting educational past, and short answer is I sort of fell into it. I've always loved research and thought that I wanted to do genetic research. And I was all set to go the whole PhD route until I got a job internship. And I cannot stress highly enough the values of internships because it kept me from a very dismal fate. And I worked at Center for Disease Control as an internship, and I saw what that type of heavy-duty research was like. And I said, well, A, I love research. B, I will go insane if I go into this field. It is, because it's, I mean, as it should be, it's very precise and it's very repetitive, and and that just did not suit me. So I took my 2 undergrad degrees at the time and went back and got an MBA so I could get into the business world. At the time, because there wasn't really a degree program for market research, they said, well, you've got research, you've got business, let's help you, you can help us solve business puzzles and get business, do business research. And that's sort of how I fell into it and loved it. So my first job was for a flower grower. They were headquartered in Miami. They grew their flowers in South America and shipped them up to America and distributed them up and down the East Coast. And I did actually variety. We were trying to develop new varieties of flowers, like a rose that will stay in the vase a little bit longer instead of its little head going like that after 2 days, and better ways to do packaging and all of that. So that was my first job, and then I sort of kept moving from different company to different company, and every time I moved I had more experience and got a better job until I said I'm going to go out and create my own practice. So. What else? Yes.
I've always been a little bit more interested in the research side rather than the business side.
Yes.
Does your company offer internships?
Unfortunately, we are very, very small. I mean, we have had interns over last 2 or 3 years. So my intern's sitting beside you. But it's been because we are small, our internships are very much part-time. So it would be kind of a hit or miss. We call you when we need you. It might be a project for 3 hours here or 4 hours there every now and then. So in terms of really getting some aid, some consultancy practice, I would recommend going with some of the larger research firms. There are several around within the state. Probably the closest one to here is probably Bellamy Research out of Winston-Salem, and they're very big, and they probably do offer internships of the kind that you would really want. It's kind of a full immersion type internship where you go in 5 days a week and full time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. What else?
I think you wore us out, Gayle.
Well, I was going to say, everybody did stay awake, and for that I am very grateful. When I do research presentations, when I'm presenting results to clients, and we're going through data and all this, the last slide in the deck is always this picture of people. They're sitting around a conference table, and they're all face down on the table, and it says, "Now, are there any questions about the research?" So, I am grateful when the eyes all stay open. So it is a hazard of the job, I have to tell you. So.
Thank you. I think you make research pretty exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You are quite welcome.
Yeah, sorry, one more question I forgot.
Absolutely.
We were going to talk about some new venture you're doing with online focus groups, actually using online tools.
Yes, and I'll be brief about that one. That's good. It's all good. Online focus groups are a really growing alternative to live focus groups. Instead of inviting 10 people into a conference room, online focus groups are basically an online chat room. And we have used them very, very successfully with a number of different clients. You can pull in up to 30 people. They can be all over the globe if you want them to be. And basically how it works, there are a couple of different ways that an online focus group can work, but the one that seems most successful for us is one that lasts for 2 or 3 days, and we throw out questions each day, a new set of questions each day. And people are recruited just like you would recruit for a regular focus group. They're screened, and if they meet the criteria, they get to participate, and you send them the login information. And they log in on day one whenever it's convenient for them, and they answer the questions. Once they answer their questions, they can see the answers that everybody else put in, and they are allowed and encouraged to make comments to other people. If there's something that they have a question about, or if it's something someone says sparks an idea. So it becomes, in a sense, a chat room. They can upload pictures. We can put pictures out there and have them react to them. For example, we can do ad testing, and one of the techniques for testing an ad are called heat maps, where you have people, whether you're doing eye tracking to see where their eyes go first, or whether you're having them click on parts of an ad that they like the best. We can do the same thing online, and then have people talk about, well, everybody liked, the top half of this. Why? Tell us more. So it allows us to, a moderator can go out and ask questions of people. They can talk back and forth with one another. Then that's, like I said, a set of questions is released on day one. Once they answer those, they're done, or they can communicate with other people. Day two, a new set of questions is released, and they answer those. Typically, an online focus group is designed to take somebody like 10 to 20 minutes each day. And they get an incentive for participating, just like a regular focus group participant would. But it does allow us to get input from more people. It allows us to show videos, show pictures, have them upload video and pictures if they want to. It allows them to talk back and forth. You don't have to travel all over the country to do this. I mean, I got to tell you, traveling for doing focus groups is hard travel, because you get up and you fly somewhere and you do a focus group at night, and you go take a nap, and you get on the plane the next morning and you fly somewhere else and you go do a focus group. And so, you don't know what day it is, you just know what city you just landed in, and it's hard. But this allows you to do it from the comfort of your own home. You can do it with more people. We recently did a project for Electrolux, and they had a very defined project. Explore taste. That was the directive I was given. Explore taste. Well, okay. So anyway, we did a whole series of questions and discussions about taste. And what Electrolux is going to do is turn that over to their product engineers to develop new products that help home cooks create better tastes for them and their family. So, I mean, it's very fascinating, but it's very efficient. It is, very easy. I think that one of the things where it's going to be important is in our society now, where more and more of us are, probably can converse faster via technology than we can in person. It allows us to really easily reach people that would be very hard to get and convince to come into a live focus group. It's like, I don't have time, but yeah, I can get on my smartphone for, 10 minutes a day and answer some questions wherever I am. I can do that. Just don't drag me into a discussion. So we're very excited about it, and the clients that we're using it with really, really like it. All right, last call. Okay.
So our next, not meeting, but our Mullen trip will be March 20th, and the Google Doc for rides and just your names, right, was sent out. So if you didn't get that, Madison can send out again after this meeting, and our next meeting is March 26th. So that's all. Thanks for coming.
If I received these yet, is there somebody here?
I know, I thought about that. Because there's a nice, yeah, the recording thing is great.
Okay.